Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations. This month I'm participating in the Best of 30 Days Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life. Today is day 9 and I'm going to be using today's sketch to create a title page for our Disney album. Here is the sketch by Suzanna Lee that I am going to be using. This one has no photos and is designed to tell the story. I like the idea of this type of layout for a title page. So I'm going to scale this down to an 8.5 by 11 design and use my Cricut to create the shapes on the page. I'm going to be using some random paper scraps and ephemera for this page. I want to use up some of the pattern papers that I've been using in the album as a way of introducing the theme. I'm going to create the page in Cricut Design Space today. This is something I do often for my Cricut classroom students, but I thought I would share a little snippet of how I put together a scrapbook page in Design Space. If you do not own a Cricut machine, you can skip ahead to the assembly portion of the video and see how this page comes together. Let's head into Cricut Design Space and I'll show you a few tips for designing your own pages. I like to create templates when I'm making a scrapbook page. My pages are usually 12 by 12 and I don't necessarily need to cut out that background, but it's nice to have a template as a reference when I'm designing the layout. There are two ways that you can create a scrapbook layout template. On the left side of the screen is the template library. When you click on this icon, you will see an array of templates you can use to design a project. Templates do not cut out from the materials. These are simply used to help you visualize your project. There are two templates that I like to use for scrapbook pages. If I'm making a 12 by 12, I use the scrapbook layout. This inserts a single page 12 by 12 template that can be changed into a double page spread. Since my layout is 8.5 by 11, I can use the basic template. When you insert a basic template, you can change the shape and the size to fit the page you are creating. Now, you might have noticed that little warning at the top. This is a reminder to let you know that templates are temporary. They do not save with your project. Once you exit the project, you will have to add the template again to continue working on your design. So unless I make a note of what template I used, I often have to go back and try to figure out what template I need to add back into that saved project. Now, Cricut has also added a new feature called guides, and these have actually become my new favorite when I'm creating scrapbook pages. The guide option is located in the operations menu. This turns any shape, image, or font into a template. The guide you create will not cut from the material and it will save with your project, which is great for those projects that you need to return to at a later date. Now, there are some templates like the t-shirt templates and the cell phone templates that are much better to use versus using a guide. But when it comes to creating scrapbook pages, I believe that the guide option is usually best. To create my page guide, I'm going to start by inserting a square shape. I'm going to change the shape of this square to the size of my scrapbook page, which is 8.5 by 11. To change this to a guide, I'm going to select the rectangle shape, and then I'm going to go up to the operation drop-down menu and select Guide. You'll see the color of the image change to an outline, and the name of the image is going to change in the Layers panel. This is a template that I can use to design my project. It will not cut out that background page from the material I'm using, but it will allow me to visualize my project. I also like how I can move the guide around on the canvas. You cannot do that with templates. So now that the base of the page is created, I'm going to grab some circle shapes and add them to the design. So I have added some different circles by inserting those shapes, and I've also grabbed a globe and a Mickey head from my image library. We spent most of our time at Epcot, so that globe is going to represent that portion of the trip, And of course, the mouse heads are going to show what type of trip this was. I'm going to move around these shapes until I get the look that I want for my design so that it's similar to the sketch. I want to make sure that I leave room for my story in the center, so I'm going to size these items accordingly. As I create the design, I am layering images on top of each other so that I can visually see what this page is going to look like. When you're working in Design Space, your layers are still going to cut out as individual pieces, but you're able to create a visual representation on the canvas so that you can make sure all the items are sized correctly. I don't know about you, but I'm a very visual person, so being able to see what the finished piece is going to look like is a huge bonus. I also want you to notice that I'm placing each set of circles in a triangular shape on the page. This is going to help create balance when all of these are cut out. Once all the images are in place, you can use the slice tool to cut those images and save yourself some paper. I shared this slicing process in another video, so I will add that link above for you to view. If you don't want to slice all those images, you can always cut them by hand. When I click Make It, you're going to be able to see that template background page is not going to cut out of my materials. The only images that are showing up on the mats are all of those circles and images that I added to the page. All right, so I'm going to cut everything out with my Cricut, and then I'm going to show you how to put together this page. Before I print my journaling, I'm going to add some color to the background. I have some mixed media paper here that I've cut to size, and I'm just going to add some color to the center of the page. I have placed some speckled egg onto my glass board and sprayed it with some water. This soft blue is going to add a little bit of color to the page, but it won't be too dark, so the printing will still show. After I have added the color, I'm going to add a little bit of splatter around the space where I'll have the journaling. This is going to help that color fade to the edges of the page and add a little bit of texture. I'm going to set this aside and allow it to dry so that I can run it through my printer, and then we can put this page together. As you can see, I have printed the story in the center of the page, and I cut out all of the circles and mouse shapes and globes for my layout. I also have a few little die cuts here that I'll be adding to the design. I wanted to bring some texture to this page, so I stitched around each of the circles with matching thread, and I left a few thread tails to sit randomly on the layout. On the small pink circles, I created bows with the thread. This just adds some whimsy to the page. Right now, I'm laying everything out how I had it on the Cricut canvas to make sure that it still balances out like I had planned. I'm actually looking at my computer screen right now so that I can see where I placed all of these different circles on the Cricut canvas and match it up here on my background. I'm also laying out a couple of die cuts that I picked out. These are the same colors as the circles I have on the page, so I need to make sure they fall within the visual triangles I'm trying to create. Once everything's in place, I can start gluing it down. I'm just going to use liquid adhesive on the circles and use a little bit of foam tape on a few of the elements like the Mickey heads and the die cuts to bring a little bit of dimension to the page. Now you probably noticed that I've skipped a few of those 30-day sketches. I had hoped to have my projects ready before we started a huge renovation, but time flew by much faster than I planned. I will be creating the rest of the sketches in July, so make sure that you've subscribed to my channel and click on that little bell icon so that you're notified when I add those new videos to my channel. So I've gone ahead and finished adding everything to the page, and I've backed this page onto some black plaid paper. I have brought back the sketch so that I can see what else I want to add. For the title, I have stamped the word magic in black ink, and I've cut it out using the matching die. I really debated backing this with some paper to make it stand out. There's so many patterns on this design, I wasn't quite sure if I should keep it simple or make it stand out. I did end up layering some pattern paper with some black glitter paper on the page, and I added some black zigzag stitching. On the sketch, there are also some hearts, and I like the placement of these. But instead of adding hearts, I'm going to be using adhesive brads. These have a little bit of black on them to match that title, and they're going to bring some contrast and dimension to the page. The last element that I want to add are the dots. These are being placed in the same areas as shown on the sketch. So the original sketch design by Suzanna Lee is a 12 by 12 sketch, but I scaled it down to 8.5 by 11 to fit our vacation album. I created the same circular patterns around that journaling area, and I exchanged a few of those circles for shapes, like the globe and mouse heads, to represent the parks we visited. This sketch has no photos, so it makes a great title page, but you could definitely add photos to it in the circle shapes or in the center of the page. The thread trails on this page were the perfect addition. Not only are they adding some texture to the design, but they create a nice connection between all of the elements on the page. Now I am still debating on that title and wondering if I should have left it without the pattern paper strips, but I do like how it stands out on the page and sets the theme for the album. Today's sketch was a fun one to replicate, and it helped me create the perfect title page for our vacation album. I enjoy using sketches as a jumping off point for layouts and cards. They often challenge me a little and help me create unique designs I wouldn't normally make. Like I said earlier, I will be working randomly through the month on these sketches, but I have a goal to complete all 30 of them by mid-July. If you would like to see some more ideas for this sketch, I have put a link to the playlist in the description below. There are quite a few creators here on YouTube and on Instagram that are creating lovely layouts using these sketches, and you will definitely be inspired by each one of them. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this project inspired you to try something new. If you have any questions about the project or the supplies I used, feel free to leave me a comment below. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.